Welcome to Is Anybody Listening to Me podcast with Azar and the Meat. There's special guest Jarvis in the house today. Giving us his hand pump. Today we're going to finish our trilogy. We've been reviewing peanut butter whiskeys for the last couple of weeks, and we mentioned on the last one that there was a third and final one that we know about. It's called PB&W. It finally made its way up here into the Northeast, and we had an opportunity to sample it today. So let me start off by welcoming my partner here, Big Meat. Let's get it going.
Hello.
So what are your thoughts on, well, why don't we welcome Jarvis in, because that was absolutely useless.
I got nothing. I'm drinking my whiskey. I love it. I like this whiskey.
See, I was going to say the opposite. Our lack of tact and contribution to the opening is reflective of our opinion of this whiskey.
Well, John sees it as a challenge now, so he's going to try to finish.
I am going to try this. You know what? My first thought on this whiskey was like, it's not that good, but I actually kind of like it.
Growing on you?
It is. It's better than the last one, Ram's Point. It's not as good as Screwball. I think Screwball is still the standard.
All right, so we're jumping right into it then. All right, so from a flavor perspective, it is different from Screwball and definitely different from Ram's Point, but this one definitely does taste like peanut butter. It does have that peanut butter taste to it.
It's forced. It's I would relate it to like a dog treat.
This little
like a peanut butter flavored dog treat. It's a specific smell of like fake peanut butter. That's exactly what this smells like. This whole bottle is somebody had a terrible whiskey that didn't sell, and they took some peanut butter extract and mashed it in and relabeled it. And that's what we have. Two distinct flavors. There's the whiskey flavor, and then there's this masked fake peanut butter gross.
This definitely tastes more like peanut butter than the other two.
No.
Than the other two?
More of not as much of a whiskey flavor.
I think there's more whiskey and less.
In this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it tastes like more whiskey. Yeah.
I don't know. I think this was more peanut. It's like thick with, like the last one, Ram's Point. I don't even think it was peanut butter. It was more butterscotch.
Yeah.
But Screwball is like, it's
Screwball to me, there's like a harmony between the flavors.
Yeah, I think
They're blended
just
properly.
right. I think this one's way sweeter. Sweeter than the other
sweet,
two.
but yeah, it seems like it's sweetened whiskey with like peanut butter flavor.
The same flavor is like when I hand my dog a peanut butter dog treat.
Does it actually say it contains peanuts? I did not check to see that, because Screwballs tells you it actually has peanuts.
So this does say contains peanuts.
Okay, so unlike Ram's Point, this one does say it contains peanuts. So
that's because that one said contains butterscotch.
Yeah, caramel flavoring. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
No, it was not.
It's not as good as Screwball, but it is better than Ram's Point. I was not a fan of Ram's Point. That's why I left it at your house here. For you,
yeah, you did. Yeah, no, I
didn't want to bring it home.
Yeah, when I get desperate, I'll be trying to polish that off or something. But
it's like, I'm trying to think. There was something else I had in my life where like it was so bad at first sip, but then you like took a second sip and you're like, yeah, that's still bad. Maybe I'll take a third one and it'll get better. And by the time you're down 2 glasses, you're like, yeah, maybe that did get better, but then you're probably just a little buzzed.
Yeah, I can't put my face, not my face, but my finger on the taste. Like it's like. My face is like puckering up when I drink. Yeah, it's
an experience.
Keep drinking it. Yeah, it grows on you.
Yeah, it'll grow on.
Yeah,
I'm on my second glass.
Yeah, that didn't take long.
You should see his glass. It looks like a little kid shot glass in the hand of Andre. Looks like a beer can in Andre the Giant's hand. Google that, all you listeners. Andre the Giant holding a beer can. That's what his glass looks like.
So. Sustainability, I think it's obvious. Like it's not something I would want to be drinking all night.
Well, we can't give it a 1 because we both poured a second glass, so it defaults to a 2.
That's what we have.
On I think when it comes
down, when you're stranded on an island and the only thing you can eat are coconuts, that's kind of how I feel right now.
But I think a 1 would have been like, we had 1, and even though I'm about to die, I will not consume this product for a second go about.
I don't think it's bad. I actually like it. I do like it.
No, that's.
But you know what? Maybe
you don't have to say something nice. You can say it was terrible, but it's still better than Ram's Point.
It's better than Ram's Point for sure. But maybe it's just because I had a lot of cheesesteaks today, and that's why. The mixture of this with the cheesesteak.
This neutralizes the salt.
Exactly. I actually like it. It does give it. It is too sweet. It's not something that you could drink throughout a night. I think I could drink Screwball. I think I've done it before. I drink a whole bottle of Screwball. Ram's Point, I just couldn't. It was like after 2 glasses, I was like, oh,
Okay.
I'm done.
I think after 2 glasses, I'd be done with this too. I don't think I'd be switching.
So-
Screwball, like we talked about it earlier, is more of like that. It's a great dessert after thing, but you can start with it. Like it's not a bad thing to start. I don't know if I'd want to start.
No, so here's the thing about this: the sip, the actual consummation of the drink is terrible. It's just it's not good on any part of the palate on the tongue. But the aftertaste is pure peanut butter. So you're like, oh, that actually wasn't that bad. Let me take another sip. It's terrible. And then you're like, oh, it's peanut butter again. That really wasn't that bad.
Whiskey. I feel like it's like a whiskey with the like flavoring.
On the way down, it's whiskey, but then it just leaves like tacky peanut butter in your mouth. You're like, oh,
all
right.
That's what the first sip I was like, oh, this is good.
I'm gonna walk you through this sip with me. You're gonna go on this journey. Ready? So here comes the sip. Okay, it's dancing around. It's gross. It's on the back. It even burns going down the throat. But now that it's gone, it's in the stomach, and now I just feel like I had a scoop of peanut butter.
Like a peanut butter cup.
Yeah, like a peanut butter cup without the chocolate. Like, you know when you rip it apart and you just lick the peanut butter out?
Yeah.
That's what I feel like I just did. But it was painful to get to that point.
Any whiskey at all.
You're a drunk.
It could just be the 3 bottles of Golden Monkey I just
That's
had.
right.
As well.
You have so much golden banana in your mouth. The peanut butter is just a nice accent.
I don't know. It almost tastes like candy to me. Like a peanut butter cup. Like it's not. I don't taste the whiskey. You guys think it's more whiskey than peanut butter?
Oh.
I don't know.
This is a guy that drinks Crown Royal and ginger.
Upon consumption, you know, shit whiskey.
Jameson and Jameson and ginger. I apologize.
Yeah.
Oh, I just burped up the whiskey. So, all right. So
how was it on the way up as opposed to the way down?
It wasn't good.
No, it didn't.
Because I'm burped. I can smell the peanut butter whiskey blend in my nose. So it's interesting because when I bought this bottle, they had it on display for the first time at the liquor store, and then next to it was Screwball, priced the same. So dollar for dollar.
Screwball's a way better.
Oh, really? This is priced just as much as Screwball?
$26.99.
Wow.
Yeah.
It even looks like a $12 bottle.
It looks
cheap. Cartoonish.
Yeah. And this is the only bottle of the 3 that doesn't have some weird like logo on it. It's not a sheep.
It's a cracker.
It's not a ram.
Yeah.
Yeah, why do they have sheeps and rams? What's with the farm animals?
No idea.
They're trying to appeal to you Greeks.
That may perhaps.
So another ringing endorsement for Screwball: the perfect blend of peanut butter flavor and whiskey, smooth, not overly sweet, but with a hint of sweetness, but you don't get that whiskey burn. I would go with Screwball for a dessert whiskey, or just a whiskey if you want to start and just have like you're just having a glass of whiskey. Not a bad choice from the cost. More expensive than Ram's Point, but we said about it last episode, much more better value just because the taste was better. It was more traditional peanut butter taste to it. PB&W, same price. It's darker, it's sweeter, but it just doesn't go down as smooth as Screwball. I mean, you can drink it.
For those logging our scores, this is on the full scale whiskey drinkability index, this registers a 5 out of 15.
5 out.
Oh, drinkability?
Drinkability, taste, and value. So its drinkability is a 2.
Oh, yeah.
Its taste and flavor is a 2 out of 5.
Oh, wow. Oh, 2 out of 5.
2
I
out
thought
of
you said
5.
out of 15. Okay.
No, and then so value is also because it's the same price as Screwball. It gets a 1 for value.
Yeah.
So
if we break
2, and 1 is a total 5 out of 15.
I got you. Yeah. So if we base it a little bit like how we did the cheesesteak podcast, it was. If you based on value, this is poor.
Horse.
So if this is just as much, almost as expensive as Screwball,
no, it's the same price. You said?
Yeah, same price. At least, I mean, it could be both on sale. One could be more expensive, but they're priced the
You
same.
said $26 because the liquor store I went to was $29
for this
for Screwball.
Well, this is the New Hampshire liquor store. The outlet.
Okay,
is
so
cheaper.
if it's right next to each other and you compare the two, then if it's the same, then that's
I mean,
that's
they both could be
terrible.
on sale. One could be $35 next week and $30. But again, they're still. They're not a cheap whiskey. It's not like you're buying a cheap bottom shelf whiskey. You're paying $30. You start to get into a better price.
I think a 5's a low score. Out of 15, out of possible 15, I would say 1 for sure value.
Yep. Taste and flavor out of 5. So that means if you go up, you're going to give it a 3, which is on the higher end of average. There's no way.
It's tasty. It's just not drink. You can't drink this all night. That's
Which is why I gave it a drinkability of 2.
All right, so
It's
maybe mine's
taste
just
and
one
flavor.
more than you do. All right, that's why I give it a 6.
Yeah.
I give it a 6.
Okay, we call it a 5.5.
Yeah.
Agree to disagree.
It's not the best whiskey. I think I enjoyed the sampling of the Victory Golden Monkey beer when we sampled that as a drink than the PB&W. I'm actually disappointed. I was really excited when I saw it. I thought it was going to be like a premium whiskey.
You saw this and thought premium?
Well, the way it was marketed,
like a circus wrap.
It looks like a circus bag of peanuts with an actual peanut decal on the top.
And what did you say earlier? There was like a ring on the top. Like
No, it's still there. Look at it.
this-
So, for those of you at home that can't see us, follow us on Twitch, and you can see that there is a clear line across the neck of the bottle from where this was sitting for so long. The sugar crystallized and left a film, a hard line film around the neck.
Yeah, so for those who want to buy this bottle, you got to shake it like a Snapple bottle and just hit the bottom of it to like get all the flavors mixed into it before you take a shot.
all right.
Peanut shells.
All right, so that was our review of PB&W. I think it by consensus, go with
Sucks.
Screwball. It is out of the 3, it's the best peanut butter whiskey that we've sampled out of the 3.
Tastes like dog food.
It's your preference, but we're telling you from our opinion, go Screwball. All right,
Did you just tell me to go screw?
that was subliminal.
It's your preference, but if you don't agree with it, you suck. I'm never drinking with you.
I enjoy Screwball just because of its name. Just go Screw. Go have a glass of Screw. All right, entertainment. Big Meat has started a new series that he's going to recommend to the group.
Yes.
On Netflix, which seems like that's all we. You know what? On a sidebar, I was actually bored one night over the weekend, and I started to put Disney Plus on, and then I realized there's nothing to watch.
Yeah.
I shut it off.
I did that.
Went
I
back
did
to
that
Netflix
too.
the other
I
day,
did that
and I was
too.
like,
Yeah.
God damn it! It's the same thing we were
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
There's nothing on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
If I want to find something new, I was like, I don't want to watch it. Like we talked about the other time. You get sick of like, all right, Avengers again? Are we gonna watch Star Wars again tonight? Nah.
I did the same thing because I was flipping through and I was like, there's nothing on Netflix. I'm like, let me go to Disney Plus. I'm like, what am I doing here? Like at 3 seconds in, I'm like, there's nothing here. There's nothing here. So I went back to Netflix. But yes, I do have a new show that I started watching. I'm only 1 episode in. There's 6 episodes in total, and it's called. It just came out last month.
6 episodes?
It's only 6
short.
episodes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it just came out last month. It's called Ottoman: The Rise of Empires. So this is a little different. It's a little unique. It's the genre is considered a docudrama.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mix between a documentary and an actual show. It's the first of its kind that I've ever watched. I don't know if you guys have watched a show like that before, where it flips back and forth between like a documentary to an actual show, but they do it pretty in a seamless way.
Okay.
And if you're big into history and, you know, the documentary, when they cut to people talking, it's like historians and like professors from universities and, you know, people that really understand like the Roman Empire versus the Ottoman Empire. And they do it pretty in a way like they're almost narrating it throughout. So it's the story of the rise of the Ottoman Empire back in the 15th century. It's very much like very Game of Thronesy. You know, it doesn't have, obviously it's a true story, so it doesn't have like dragons and whatnot. But in terms of like the gore and the nudity, it's there. It's there. It's all there on Netflix. I'm only 1 episode in, but so far I'm hooked. I actually love the whole.
Is it graphic?
It's pretty graphic. Yep,
Okay.
yep. It's pretty graphic. But I do like the docudrama like type way, the format that they're doing it, because you're following along and you're really kind of understanding exactly what's going on because they're narrating it. Unlike The Witcher, which I ended up finishing The Witcher, and I'm still thinking about like, what the hell did I just watch? I still don't understand what the hell happened. I wish it was a docudrama so like people could actually talk about what the hell is going on.
Witcher. Yeah. You weren't captivated by it?
No, I didn't like the whole timeline jumping back and forth. And this is probably going to be more spoiler. Not really. And you know what? They've done that before. They did it with Westworld on HBO. And I hated Westworld as well, too. So I didn't like the way... I don't like those. I don't like the way they keep jumping back and forth on timelines. But anyway, the Ottoman... I'm 1 episode in, but it's a unique way. I've never seen a show quite like this, where they kind of jump back and forth between like a narrator or / documentary. But it's pretty good. It's so far it's pretty good. And if you're into history and if you're into the whole Roman Empire and how they ended up collapsing and Constantinople and how did it end? How did Constantinople eventually collapse and end? This is actually it's a pretty good show. There's a little bit of religion in it as well if you like to follow that.
So Netflix did a show like this that I did follow. I was looking it up as you were talking because I couldn't remember the year it came out. But in 2014, it was one of Netflix's earliest big production shows. They put a lot of money into it. It was called Marco Polo, and it was a documentary
docudrama
on the Genghis Khan, the Mongolian Empire, and how it spread over Asia. And it was well done. They spent a lot of money on the scenes and stuff. The production was pretty high, but it only lasted 2 seasons. But it had that same Game of Thrones, fighting for the throne to be the king, and battle between family and people conspiring against the emperor at the time. So I'm wondering if when I was watching it on as I was scrolling through Netflix, I'm like, oh boy, I was a little nervous it was going to be a big time investment because I remember Marco Polo was a long drama and you had to really pay attention. So it sounds like what you were describing is almost exactly the thing, but now it's on the Persian side of the empire, not the Mongolian empire.
I don't think it's the first docudrama that's ever been. I've never watched it. This is my first one, so I'm sure it's been done before. But I actually enjoyed it. I actually was like, wow, I wish they did more shows like this.
Yeah.
Obviously, it would have to be based on true events. You know what I mean? I don't think you have a documentary on like a show like The Witcher.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody talking oh yeah, this happened. No, it didn't happen. Yeah. No, there's no such thing. But with this one, it was actually pretty because it helped you understand exactly what was happening. You know what I mean? You're not just watching a show and be like, who's this guy? What is he trying to accomplish? What is he doing? You got somebody actually kind of talking over it, and it helps explain it a little bit better.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Might be worth flipping through it, but I'm sorry, The Witcher sucked. But everybody that called me that listened to the listens to the podcast, they're like, hey, I started The Witcher. Yeah, it's kind of slow. I don't think I kept that a secret in any of the podcasts. The times that it's slow. Sometimes you got to bite your teeth and get through it. And
I struggled with that. There were times I'd watch an episode and be like, wait a minute. This character was in the last, this person's character died in the last episode. Why? What's going on? And then it hit me. I'm like, it's jumping back and forth between timelines. It was just too confusing. It was too confusing.
And the best part is that when you said you fell asleep, was that you that fell asleep? No, it was Matt. My brother fell asleep. He goes, yeah, I fell asleep on the first episode. I'm like, yep. It's something about that show. It just soothes you to sleep. So basically, you might not like the episode, but if you have trouble with insomnia, watch The Witcher.
I struggled through it, and I said, you know what, I have to watch this.
So you find the nudity redeeming?
I'm not gonna. Well, there was that one episode that I was like, this is kind of nice, But then all I'm doing is watching the background with all the nudity. I'm not even paying attention to what the dialogue is about. I'm just like, wow, this is nice. And then the scene's over. I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell just happened? Let me rewind it.
Okay, so the nudity was too distracting.
Yes.
Okay.
Less is more.
Less is more.
Less
Okay.
is more.
And you don't hear that too often coming out of his mouth. That less nudity is more. But okay. All right. And out of the three of us, there was Jarvis got the chance to watch the new movie that got nominated in the Oscars, 1917. I just said the other day, I want to go see that movie, and I'm willing to go by myself to watch it because my wife isn't a big war movie type of person, but all the reviews I've heard on it is that it's a really good war movie. So what are your thoughts, John? Is it worth the investment?
Yes. Yeah, you should go see it. For some aspects of it were... it was along the lines, quality-wise, set-wise, of Saving Private Ryan, where they did an excellent job of bringing you to the battlefront and really putting you in the perspective of this is what they saw, this is what they looked like, this is what the sounds were like. So it was really good in recreating the environment. What I didn't like was the plot, because the story, similar to Private Ryan, Saving Private Ryan was loosely based on a true story. There were 4 brothers that were all sent out, and when 3 of them died, they had to get the force. In real life, they all died, and it was something that the War Department said they wanted to avoid. So Saving Private Ryan was like an embellishment of that story, and because of that embellished story, it allowed this certain cast of characters to go from D-Day to the bridge in Verville all the way through. This movie kind of did the same thing. It took a story that was loosely based on a true story to connect a set of characters to the end result, and it kind of just it was a one night thing. And stuff like this happened all the time in World War One. And I think that was what my expectation was really high for this movie for, because the knowledge everybody has around what the struggles of World War One were today are minimal. And you see what the soldiers are going through. Like now they have news cameras following them around on the battlefield. Back then you had no idea, and you couldn't get anybody anywhere close to one of these just because of how the gore, the carnage, and what these guys went through. So it did a really good job of putting you there with them. But I thought the story was just, it could have done a better job. So Saving Private Ryan was the epitome of war movies for me. It had everything was historically accurate, down to the weapons, down to the battles, the sequences, and it delivered on the end. Like Tom Hanks, obviously you've all seen Saving Private Ryan, Tom Hanks dies in the end of it. And it really made you understand like the human aspect of war, that nobody was invincible. In this movie, kind of skipped over that a little bit. I won't get into the end of it, but it kind of was too predictable for me to really give it the highest rating it should have. It just so if I look at Saving Private Ryan as a 10, this kind of checked in at a 7.
That's not bad, because Saving Private Ryan is probably one of the best.
The best, and I think it was because it didn't save a hero just for the expense of making it like viewer friendly. It truly let you connect with a character and let them succumb to war. And in this movie, it protected its characters from that when it should have exposed them to it a little bit more. And without getting into the details, because I can give, after everybody's seen it, or if we want to do it.
When we all have a chance to watch it.
But I have a really strong opinion about a very specific detail that they could have changed to the movie, and it would have changed the whole thing. It wasn't a subtle detail, but one nuance in the middle versus changing the ending based on that nuance, it would have made the movie a 10. It would have made it a solid 10. What was great is that it was a single camera shot. They didn't cut. So when it was a scene started, the camera just moved and panned, and it never broke from the character. So everything he did, he was on camera. So they would have a 10-minute scene, and if they screwed up in minute 9, they would have to go back and start the scene over from minute 1.
I love it when movies do that.
It was really, really cool. And for me, to understand World War One, they fought for 3 years, just basically hawking cannons and grenades at each other. It created that no man's land. And if you know anything about the trench warfare in World War One, it was the most brutal fighting to ever the planet's ever seen. And this movie did a fantastic job when these guys had to go through that to actually bring you to what that carnage looked like. I did give it high remarks for not skipping out on any of those details. Yeah. I just wish they ended it like the movie deserved.
Yeah, from what I've seen from the trailer, I haven't seen it, but from the trailer, it looks amazing. Watching the scenes that they show. Yeah. And I think it won an award for Academy Award.
I think it was cinematography.
Yeah. And I do like those one shot. They do that. They've done that a lot throughout a lot of movies.
Yeah, you didn't feel like it though. It actually did a good job of not making you feel like you were in a car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It does it. So I remember Saving Private Ryan. It had a lot of the camera shakiness.
Yep.
And it looked like you were there. Was this 1917?
A little bit.
That?
Yep.
It was a little bit like
that?
Yep, okay.
For sure it was. And it was, but so, and the one thing that if you want to bring the human aspect to it, World War One was the first time that PTSD was documented, but they called it shell shock. And it was because over some of these battles, they dropped over 1 million shells on each other, one side to the next, 1 million cannon shells landing on these people. You couldn't walk or sleep without a bombardment landing on you for 3 years, and it really messed all these people up. And this movie did a great job of showing you not even the aftermath, but what that looked like. But it really didn't give you a sense as to what it felt like. So when they were crossing, these two guys had to cross the line, and they do. And when they get there, the Germans are gone, and you just see this. It looks like
No, I'm going to argue that. I was watching Wonder Woman. Isn't that based on World War I too? And
is it 1 or 2?
It's 1.
Is it?
And she crosses the line. She was in the trenches, and they were in the no man's land. And Wonder Woman was able to get right through that.
These guys got right through it too, but it was because the Germans left. I didn't see Wonder Woman.
Woman was bulletproof, and she's hot too.
Oh, is that the Gal Gadot one?
Gal Gadot.
She is next level.
Yeah.
She's next level, but that's a different
podcast on that.
Speaking of next level, so you mentioned Gal Gadot. Is that how you say Gal Gadot? She's in Fast and Furious. And we got to have a podcast at some point about the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah,
you're not a big fan.
No, I know you're not.
No,
I watched them. I started watching them. I like the earlier ones.
I did like the earlier ones.
They're more grounded, where the newest ones have gone.
Well, the new ones are absurd. They're
Hobbs
absurd.
and Shaw?
Yes. Oh, that's just yeah. Well, that's just a spin-off.
I haven't seen a Fast and Furious from since they went to Tokyo. I didn't see Tokyo on.
Oh my god. So you don't even know. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
So these are what I call popcorn flicks, right? They're just the plot's ridiculous, the action's
They're
ridiculous.
like John Wicks. They're a
little bit like John Wicks, yeah. But I mean, if you like, fast cars and like it's turned into more of a. It's not just the first two were all about just cars and just there wasn't really anything going on. The movies after that, it turns into like you're dealing with like terrorists and it becomes more of an action movie.
No, I've watched some of them.
I think the first two were great.
I like the first two as well, but the part 3 was very different because it was a whole new cast. But then it kind of I don't know if we want to talk about. I want to save this. I want to save this for another podcast. Because,
I got to retool in case I have a
the
rebuttal.
new trailer for F9 is out, and my boy John Cena is in it. So we got to talk about that at some point at the next podcast. Yes, he is in it. But I'm telling you, there is a character that comes back that everybody's talking about it online. And it's a character that died few movies ago, and now he's back in this.
It's got to be Vin Diesel.
No, Vin Diesel's been in it since
Did Paul Walker die? For real?
Yeah, he did.
He died for real.
Yeah. If they brought him back, that would be amazing. But
he's CGI'd all the way through the whole movie.
No. It's a guy named Han. It's an Asian guy that died several movies ago.
Yeah.
No, he's in the trailer. He's in the trailer. It's not a spoiler. It's in the trailer. But you see him pop up and you're like, how is he back? This is weird.
F10, coronavirus.
Yeah.
But we got to talk about it next time.
All right, we'll say that because I got to catch up on them. I really have to sit down and try to watch Fast and Furious. The ones that I haven't seen. There's some gaps in the story.
I'm going to have to skip that podcast.
Yeah.
F5, F6, and F7.
And FU.
Those FU. That's right.
All right. So, to go back to Jared, I know we cut you off with the Wonder Woman thing. I got to say, the feedback that I've heard, all great reviews on 1917.
Yeah.
And one thing that I did hear is how people didn't appreciate how what's the word I want to use? Basically, World War I is one of those wars that not a lot of people have done movies on and talk about. Not a lot of people are aware of the real history of World War I. So I'm wondering. I would imagine with the success of 1917. It wouldn't shock me to start seeing more movies with some of these stories of
And at the time, it was called the Great War.
It should still be called. I mean, I have had the fortune of being a history buff. So when I say the fortune, I mean I spent a lot of time looking at stories, looking at battle sequences and chronology, and so I got into a little bit of that prior to 1917, so I did know a little bit about what I was expecting to see. I just wanted to see what the interpretation, cinematographical interpretation would be, and it was to my expectation and higher. What I didn't like is that when you read any story, every single World War I veteran will tell you it's the most unimaginable thing possible being there, and this movie really made it feel imaginable.
Okay.
But not in a way that I didn't leave when I watched the first opening scene of Saving Private Ryan when they did the D-Day invasion, you could pause the movie to catch your breath and be like, oh, damn, that was I had a moment.
I had never watched Saving Private Ryan after that first one. I watched it once. It was such an emotionally draining that first opening scene.
Yes.
Sucked you in and you felt it, and then you watched the rest of the movie, but I was still thinking about the opening scene.
Right. So I'm glad you said that because that's what I was waiting for. Now, the reason that particular reference is relevant is the phrase was called going over the top. And the trench warfare was 480 plus miles from the North Sea all the way down to the Italian border of trenches. And it was two armies, the German and the Austrian army, dug into trenches this way, and then France, Canada, England, and then eventually the United States dug in on this side. And it was just legitimately two trenches dug with some backup trenches, but they were not a quarter mile apart, and they were just a stalemate, so dug in that you couldn't get to the next one without just getting mowed down by gunfire because the coordination was off. It was terrible. So the phrase "going over the top" was literally the same moment that the doors fell on the invasion, on the landing invasion transports at D-Day, and it was just wasted gunfire. You were just mowed down. So how it would happen is they would set a timer, they'd say go, the artillery would fire. And every 30 minutes or whatever it was, the artillery would move back 10 feet. So as the invading force, you had a clock too, and okay, the whistle blew, you went up and over the top, and you hoped that the accuracy of those cannons landed on the front line of the trench to push the machine guns back. And if they did, you weren't going to get mowed down. But if they were off by 10 feet front or back, those machine guns didn't move, it mowed you down. And literally, day and night, you went over the trench, wasted. Millions of people. No war has caused death like this, and it just glossed over that. And I think it could have done way more to bring you into that feeling of what these guys felt going over the top.
So you wanted a more graphic movie, basically.
The graphic was, but that's the problem. Is the graphic was there. The movie had shock value because there is a moment of the movie where you're like, oh damn, I didn't expect that to happen. Like,
Okay.
He's like me. He wants more death and destruction.
you know, I do.
He wants to feel like.
I hate to say I wanted more death because that sounds really like cynical, but like to do this movie justice for the level of sacrifice that those guys had to give, where like that was the last war that like chemical warfare was legal. Because they had the mustard gas, they would drop it over your trench, and everybody would throw up for 4 days, if not die. And it was like, okay, now we'll attack because you're all sick. Like that's the level that they were exposed to weapons that had no regulation.
Wait. I just have one question.
Oh, this is not going to be good.
Was there any nudity in it?
Wow. Not enough.
Might be like a guy pissing in his
No,
diapers.
I don't want to watch
No.
All right, I can see that. All right. Well, thanks for the review. We still have to see it. We'll have to bring you back and see if we felt the same way about the movie.
I do want to say that if we do that, I would like to rank all-time like war movies.
That would be a good one.
Because I have a high standard, and there's only 3 movies off the top of my head that are above the bar. 1917 is somewhere floating in there, but there are 3 movies that I could call out. We've already talked about one. There were 2 others that I could call out right away. That was but no, that's a little like psychedelic. And,
Full Metal Jacket.
No, so Full Metal Jacket, the second half of it was like a waste of time. The first half was great.
You're
but
right,
the second half, you were like, what am
was
I watching?
Yeah.
But no, as far as like,
Good Morning Vietnam.
Oh, Apocalypse Now was
it was that we'll save it for a different podcast.
Vietnam.
What I'm talking about is like in relation to battle.
Oh,
Yeah.
is like
Apocalypse Now.
Braveheart is included in that?
Let's say American Wars.
Okay.
Unless there's one that's really, really good that you want to bring in, but we'll debate that.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
I like it.
Fair war movies.
Yeah.
There's always good. There's a lot of carnage in those ones. Rambos don't count.
No, has to be. What'd you call it? A docudrama.
Docudrama.
Has to be a documentary, like based on a real war, based on real battles.
Yeah, based on 2 events. Yeah.
You can make up.
Nominates
Yeah.
Pearl Harbor with Ben Affleck. You're off the podcast. Anything with Ben Affleck, you're automatically.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you to please shut your microphone and go home. All right. So why don't we wrap it up before my battery dies? Big Meat wanted to share about the NBA All-Star game. He had a little bit of a chubby.
I did.
You got a chub.
I did. Do you want to wrap it up with that one?
Yeah, let's wrap
All
it
right,
up.
I'll go quick because I know your battery's going to die. You got to pick up your kids in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So the All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game was just recently, and I thought it was the best All-Star game that I've seen of any sports. And granted, there were 4 quarters, right? So 3 quarters were like, whatever, nobody's playing defense. All of a sudden, the 4th quarter came out, and everybody's just played balls out. I mean, it was everybody. Like, you got a team of All-Stars against another team of All-Stars going as hard as they possibly can to try to win that game, which I've never, ever, ever seen in any All-Star game. And just based on the format that they changed it, because it was all on charity, right? And so it was a lot of money too. It was like $300,000 that was going to charity based on, And they had like the kids part of that charity that were like in the stands, like versus the other group of kids. So they were like going crazy over it. And I think you could tell the way they were playing. The NBA players are like, we got to win this. We got to win this for our charity. And it was like there were hard fouls. There were some charging calls, which you never ever see. Like no one's going to take a charge.
That must have been in the fourth quarter then.
In the fourth quarter, yeah.
I was going to say because I watched through the first quarter and I was like,
it was like they didn't play deep. But which is kind of crazy because by the fourth quarter came around, now they're trying as hard as they can. It's like, well, why don't you try in the first three quarters because it all affects the overall score.
I was kind of disappointed after you started describing like.
I think they realized after a while, like the first quarter was a little weak. The second quarter, it was Giannis Antetokounmpo. He all of a sudden, he was the captain of one of the teams. He set the tone. All of a sudden, he's going all out, like defense, offense, whatever it is. And I think that kind of like let the other players know, like, oh man, like he's trying, like he's trying to win here. Like we should try to win too. It's for our charities. And I think they started like realizing it. The fourth quarter came around. It was the best fourth quarter of All-Star game basketball that of all time. Like it's not even a debate. It's not. People were actually like legit trying to win.
As of this morning, it was a debate.
Well, we're talking about some tool that like we were just talking about, and we won't mention his name. We'll just refer him to as Cockroach. But that's his name, Cockroach, and which, by the way, doesn't understand the rules of basketball, whereas NCAA is where you shoot one free throw at a time as opposed to two free throws like the NBA. But, he doesn't understand it because he's a dummy. Anyway.
Thank God he had some whiskey to calm him down because there was a lot of rage.
You know what? He's just a dummy.
Here it comes.
He's just a dummy.
He's going to go full Jarvis here. 3, 2.
And so the final score, it ended up being where they ended up winning because it wasn't a time limit in the fourth quarter. It was whoever scores up to 24 points in honor of Kobe Bryant. And so the 24th point ended up being a free throw, which was anticlimactic, right? But that was based on the rules of how they set it up. I think they're going to tinker with it for next year, and maybe they don't want it to end that way for next time. But I see this I see this being a change to all the All-Star games and all the other sports moving forward because it's been an issue. The baseball has been running into this for years, right? Yeah. They're like, what the hell? We can't get people to tune into this. Football, they almost canceled the Pro Bowl. I remember years back, they were just like, let's just get rid of it because no one's watching. It's pointless. No one's doing anything.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
The NBA have found a way to tie it into charity, put a lot of money into it, and now the players will start trying.
I see this. But I always thought the hockey was the best out of the four.
That's because those athletes are the least selfish.
Yeah, but it's a little bit more physical. Like they play, from my understanding.
Because they have respect for the sport.
Yeah.
They wouldn't put a product out there where they were dogging it.
Yeah. The NBA is not the NBA. The NFL is the worst.
NFL's the worst. Yeah, because people don't want to get hit and they don't want to get.
Yeah, and I can understand that you don't want to ruin your career over a freaking Pro Bowl game. But baseball, I don't understand why it's half-assed. It's the least physical sport. Why can't you play a game? Like I don't understand. There's no pride. Just play the freaking game to win. Why do we need to put in like every single player play to win? And I know they put that whole stupid gives you the home field advantage during the World Series.
No, not anymore. They got rid of that.
Yeah, but that didn't even work either. And it's just like even that didn't have an impact.
They can't do it based on just low cash. Like they can't just say, all right, the winner wins like $50,000. That's like nothing for these guys. You put a charity into it, like NBA does, and the format was changed a little bit because now it's like they do it by quarter. So it's not like, okay, the winner at the end of the game ends up winning the money. They were doing it by quarter. So whoever won the first quarter score won $100,000 for their charity. The second quarter, it was like the second quarter started, it was 0-0. Right? And then they won $100,000. Then the third quarter, they won $100,000. And then the final score, they combined all the three scores together. And then the one with the highest score, the first to get to 24 points ends up winning. So it's a very different type of format.
It's creative, though.
It's very creative. And, like, I'm telling you, like, people, like, there are players that I was like, holy crap. Like, these are all-star players that I'm sure, like, owners of teams and general managers and coaches were, like, probably screaming at the television, like, do not do that again. Like, do not get injured. But it made it so much more exciting for the fans.
You know what? Now I'm actually curious to tune in next year because if it's the same format, that at least it sounds like there's more value. Just may not be worth sticking around the first quarter because that was terrible. I was watching that.
Yeah, it was
But
all
might
dunk
be-
after dunk after
Yeah,
dunk.
but maybe by the halftime, come back in and just tune in and watch the second half. It might be the.
But I think they're going to tinker it next year. I think they're going to maybe make some, and I think players have learned too. Like, oh man, like this is based on like if we don't play hard in the first quarter, it's going to affect us in the fourth quarter. So we might as well just play hard throughout the whole
It
game.
might be a better product.
Yeah.
this year. Okay.
I agree.
I'm going to wrap it up here. This was a good long podcast, covering a lot of topics here. So,
Tease the future. March Madness coming up. Bracketology.
well, more importantly,
NCAA.
this threesome is going to be in Nashville for a guys trip, and we'll be
A lot of
reviewing
whiskey.
a lot of whiskey, a lot of bars to review.
Oof.
So next month is going to be a very exciting
Do you
month.
think they have their own peanut butter flavored whiskey?
I hope to God I never see PBNW again. All right. So as like every podcast, just to close it up, I would like to just remind you guys, please go into Apple Podcast, go into the app, look for is anybody listening to me. Subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. If you follow through SoundCloud or YouTube, we're also on there. But as always, please subscribe and give a rating if you can, and we'd appreciate it. Any final thoughts, Meat, before we wrap up?
No, but I'm hungry again.
Well, he's hungry.
Cheesesteak.
He eats more cheesesteak. All right, Jarvis, thank you for being here.
Glad to be here. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Jarvis.
See you guys.
See ya.